Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I very proudly rise to speak on the Major Sporting Events, Indicia and Images Protection and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2021, which does two things. It amends the Major Sporting Events Protection Act of 2014 and amends the Sport Integrity Act 2020. And Labor supports this bill, which was introduced in the Senate on the 16th of June this year. And I'll deal with those two aspects, the two bills, separately. The Major Sporting Events, Indicia and Images Protection Bill provides protection for major sporting events against ambush marketing. In simple terms, ambush marketing describes unauthorised businesses associating their name, brands, products or services with a major sporting event. Unauthorised means businesses that do not have commercial rights and are not licensed sponsors or corporate partners, for example. The Act needs to be updated because it currently includes schedules for the 2018 Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, a great event which is now in the past, and the postponed ICC T20 World Cup 2020. The bill amends the Act to remove references to these two events. It also adds the FIFA 2023 Women's World Cup and the rescheduled ICC T20 World Cup, which is now due to be held in 2022. Labor was proudly first to publicly express our support for Australia's bid to host the FIFA 23 Women's World Cup, which of course was successful. Hosting the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup is a huge opportunity for Australia. I commend Football Australia's goal of reaching gender parity in grassroots participation by 2027, which will no doubt be aided by a World Cup on home soil. Although I would make the point that we desperately need more facilities for the increased female participation in football, particularly in my electorate where we're seeing female players having to get changed in cars out the back in the bush, and it's the most unwelcoming state of affairs. While we're talking about major sporting events, it would be remiss of me not to mention the wonderful news in July that Australia will host its third Olympic Games in 2032. Congratulations to Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk and her government, the Council of South East Queensland Mayors, the Australian Olympic Committee, the federal government and everyone involved in Brisbane's successful bid. In July and August, the efforts and achievements of our Australian Olympic and Paralympic teams in Tokyo lifted the spirits of millions of Australians in lockdown, amazed and entertained us and did us all proud. I know I'm not alone in already being excited about the opportunity for our athletes to represent Australia in front of huge crowds in 2032. COVID-19 forced the postponement of the ICC Men's T20 Cricket World Cup, which was meant to be held last year but is now scheduled for 2022. I hope Australia's vaccination rollout is advanced enough by then that it can run smoothly, because postponements and cancellations hit hard. And it's not just the financial toll on the bottom line. It's the effort that goes into planning and preparing for major events, both for athletes and organisers. It's a challenge of having to do it all again, as well as finding space in already crowded sporting calendars. I'm sure all members of this House sincerely hope that the current obstacles to international major sporting events will soon be a thing of the past. That's certainly my hope, because the T20 World Cup, FIFA Women's World Cup and Brisbane Olympics are not the only major sporting events on the horizon for Australia. Next year, Australia will host the Women's Basketball World Cup, the World Athletics Cross Country Championships, the UCI Road Cycling World Championships and the Virtus Oceania Asia Games for intellectual impairment. In 2023, in addition to the FIFA Women's World Cup, Australia will host the World Transport Games. In 2025, we've got ICF Canoe Slalom World Championships, where Australia's own Tokyo Olympic gold and bronze medalist Jess Fox is lauded as the greatest ever individual paddler. And in 2026, Australia will host the UCI BMX World Championships. And Mr Deputy Speaker, I've got my fingers crossed that Australia might also win the right to host the Rugby World Cup in 2027. As a proud, I know the member opposite's a proud rugby union player, and as a proud member of the Southern Beaches Old Salts and an old boy of Briars and Gosford Red Devils, I certainly am very hopeful that we win the rights for that World Cup. And there are a few more still up for grabs. These major sporting events entertain and inspire Australians. They boost tourism, trade and our economy and strengthen our international ties, to name just a few of their benefits. So it's important that we protect these events through updates like this to the Major Sporting Events Protection Act 2014. These protections provided by the amendments in this bill are standard and necessary for major sporting events hosted in Australia. They mirror protections for past sporting events. The addition of the FIFA 23 Women's World Cup to the schedule under the Act was one of the government guarantees required by FIFA in order for Australia to secure the event. As such, it is supported by Football Australia. The addition of the T20 World Cup is a protection expected by the International Cricket Council and therefore supported by the ICC T20 World Cup 2022 Local Organising Committee. So Labor supports the amendments that this bill seeks to make to the Major Sporting Events Protection Act 2014. We do intend to, I will be moving a second reading amendment that all words after that be omitted with a view to substituting the following words. Whilst not declining to give the bill a second reading, the House 1 notes the importance of rights protection for hosting major sporting events and supports the changes to this bill protect the FIFA Women's World Cup, Australia-New Zealand 2023 and the ICC T20 World Cup 2022 from ambush marketing, and 2 calls on the government to further support Australia's ability to host international sporting events by implementing an effective national quarantine system to ensure COVID-safe travel for sports teams and officials. I now have a few very brief comments on the other aim of this bill, which is to amend the Sport Integrity Australia Act 2020. That bill deals with Australia's sports integrity arrangements and also requires an update in order to correct references to articles of the World Anti-Doping Code, the WADA Code. As a signatory to the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sport, Australia is required to implement anti-doping arrangements in accordance with the principles of the WADA Code. Revisions to the code earlier this year also resulted in changes to the numbering of articles within the code. The amendments proposed in this bill simply update the Sport Integrity Australia Act 2020 to reflect the current article numbering, and Labor supports this bill.